joining us today for another episode of What's Your Why Wednesday. Today, I am joined by the fabulous Janet Pagan. She is a branch manager at PRMG. Janet, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to dive right in. Now, most of us came into the mortgage industry by accident, but we stay in the industry because it's tied to our personal and professional why. So we would love to know, what is your why?
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me. I love the part about fabulous. What's my why in this industry? I came into this industry when my parents I was motivated by the experience when my parents were purchasing their first home, and I was, a young teenager in high school. And my parents' experience was a really good one because they were working with a really dedicated realtor and a mortgage broker that really helped my parents. And that really touched me because the dream that my parents always had was to purchase a home. And we were a family, mother and father, and 5 children. We were 7 in our family. So I just didn't even have an idea of a 1 or a 2 family. We lived, in a multi-family building. And then from there, we went to live in a 1 family that my parents rented. So it just impacted me. My parents were guided so nicely into buying a 2 family where my parents with such a large family could, get rent from that additional unit, and eventually, we grew into like using the basement for the teenagers for fun and whatever. But I came into the industry, I wasn't involved in the industry full time. And like you said, by accident, I met someone that became my mentor, and he was a mortgage broker, and he asked me if I wanted to do it part time. And of course, I love the business. I love real estate. And so I, accepted the invitation, and he was like a mentor. He started teaching me. I went into that, and eventually I was working in the pharmaceutical industry, and the entire industry imploded. And I felt that I had the opportunity now to go into the mortgage industry full time. So that was actually in 1998 when I opened up an office, and he gave me the opportunity and said, "Are you ready? You can open up your office and do this." And I said, "Yeah, I am ready. If not, I'll be ready." And so I started networking, with family and friends, and that's how I began.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And just the story of your experience with watching your parents, get their first mortgage and having, when I hear that, I think of the importance of having that impact, right? As a mortgage professional, we're not only impacting the parents, but look at you as a child, you as a teenager, you were also paying attention and you were watching, and that person even impacted you as a teenager. So it goes to show you the impact that we have as mortgage professionals, not just in one person, but in the ripple that happens beyond that person. And that leads me to my next question. Impact is like one of my words for 2020, because I really do believe that everything we do impacts others and impacts
Yes.
the world. So I'd love if you could share a story of one of those families. And I know we have lots of stories. I know you help so many people, but give us one of those stories that really just touches your heart of where you realized that impact that you had on them.
Yes, of course. There have been so many beautiful families that have come through my office and that I've had the pleasure and, honor of working with, that have placed, their great trust in me. But I do have one family that's very special to me. Um, and that family relocated here from New York. They were renting, and I met them through another client, and they were looking actually to rent. So they asked me, do you know anyone that just purchased and need a tenant? And I said, but why? Is there any reason why you wouldn't buy? I mean, I think you should. Let's look at everything. So they did not have any money for their down payment or their closing cost. And so we had at the time several down payment assistance programs with the seller assisted down payment and everything. And so we worked something out. I spoke with a realtor, recommended the family, and they started working with the realtor. You know, he was working in New York City as a chef in a Japanese restaurant, and he had the income. He just didn't know that he could qualify. Like he
Wow.
thought that buying a home was so difficult that he needed like 20%. And, I said, well, let's try, let's work on this. And so, we started working with them. They found this wonderful home. Okay. They purchased the home. We were able to get the monies towards their down payment, include their closing costs. They had a wonderful payment. Okay. And it resulted in them eventually, like, in a span of over 5 years, they sold the house
Wow.
and grew into a bigger home because then they started with one child and they had two more children. They had a family of three. Now, why are they so special to me aside from all these things that we did together? um now one of the sons, I'm talking about when I started in the business
Right.
almost 25 years ago. And over the years they shared all of the experiences. They bought three homes with the equity they built, right? The son went into the service, came to my office. He brought him and said, my son is going to buy a home and it has to be with you, Jan.
Aw.
So his son bought a house, the other son bought a house. I went to the son's wedding. I
Oh.
witnessed, the birth of the grandchild.
Oh.
And it's sort of like bittersweet because, they had a challenging moment where, Mr. Rivera had cancer and
Oh.
we thought we were going to lose him. And he beat that. This was 3 years ago. And now his third child is in the process of purchasing a home. So I've
Oh.
been able to work with the entire family. It's just a joy, really. And they're just
Oh.
my friends, and I love this family.
Oh, I love that. Like I'm literally, as you're speaking about it, I'm picturing, right? Like I'm picturing this couple with the one child, years ago. And how many families have no idea that they can purchase a home, right? Like they have these misconceptions that, well, even though I make a good living, I don't have savings. So then I disqualify, right? Or I can't go about it if I don't have the 20% down. And so that misinformation or not having someone to guide them, it changed their entire life by you taking the time to say, well, that's great that you want to rent, but hey, maybe we take a look at the possibility of purchasing your own home and then guiding them through the growth of their family. And then, of course, purchasing other homes with the equity of that. And then, of course, generational wealth. Now it's passed on to the next generation. And now we're going on to grandchildren. I mean, Janet, that's what our industry is all about. Those relationships, that bond between mortgage professional, and these families. It overwhelms me with joy when I hear that.
Yes,
And that's the whole reason why I love doing What's Your Why, because everyone needs to remember that's what it's about. That's exactly what it's about. It's about that impact that you're having with those families that will change the generations after. I love that. Great job. I love that. All right,
thank
final
you.
question. Okay. So both of us, we've been in the industry since the 90s, right? We've seen lots of cycles and lots of people come and go. And it's very important, the industry has been a blessing to us, to our families, right? But we now need to see lots of the next generation coming in, and that next generation coming into leadership roles and being excellent mortgage professionals to be able to do the same thing that you've been doing, passing on to different generations behind us. So, Janet, what would be your advice to our leaders of our industry right now to make sure that we're setting up that next generation for success and giving them everything they need to be able to go beyond past even us being here?
Yes, most definitely. Please keep your doors open to our families, our first-time home buyers. Once we get to a certain level in this industry and we are producing a certain amount of a pipeline, millions and millions of dollars, but let's not lose that focus and that passion that brought us here is to help our first-time home buyer. They need us.
You are so right about that. And that leads me to another question I just thought of. So we recently attended the NAREP Gala, and congratulations on becoming a vice president of the Northern New Jersey NAREP. And I know that you're going to be involved with some amazing things. And do you want to share a little bit about that and what you're working on for NAREP?
Yes, thank you so much. It's a really exciting times right now for NARA. We're going to be doing a lot of the advocacy here in New Jersey and trying to bring better programs for first-time home buyers. As far as financing, a lot of educational workshops for those, realtors or anyone giving that service that a first-time home buyer needs to make that first purchase. So we're dedicated to educating our professionals and also advocating so that that first-time home buyer can get the resources, the proper financing that that they need to make their purchase.
That's wonderful. And I absolutely love the gala, and congratulations on you guys being #2 in the entire country. That your chapter, that's incredible. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Keep going. I know you'll be #1 in no time. I know eventually that's going to be #1. You're going to be right there.
That is our goal, and I think that we'll get there with our policy and our advocacy work that we're doing, and I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Well, keep being fabulous, Janet. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me, Laura.